I'm sorry to bring this up, but it was a divorce day on Monday.
You should have been here. It was a right laugh.
The time of the year when lawyers see the biggest spike in divorce filings. But have you considered what it means for your health? According to studies, people who go through divorce often report higher levels of stress, anxiety and depression. They're 20% more likely to develop chronic health conditions in their 50s and even have a 23% higher mortality rate. So, I mean, it affects much more than just bank balances, because that's, you know, when you think of divorce and having to go through all of that, but the mental toll that it can have, it can be debilitating for a lot of people.
Yeah, and I think, you know, obviously every divorce is different, you know, but even if it's an amicable divorce, it's still really stressful. And sometimes it's not even you that's making it stressful or your ex, it's the whole lawyer situation and just... You know, I remember with mine, the thing that upset me the most was after all those years and children, in both cases, because I've done it twice, in both the cases, the main thing that hurt me, or didn't hurt me, but made me really sad, was that when it came to its end, the only thing anybody ever talked about was who owns what and who's got what. And I remember sitting there one day and thinking, is that all it was, all these years? Because to me, it was so much more. It was so much more about your personal emotions and you loved that person or they loved you or whatever. So, you know, and I remember when I went for counselling at one point, because I was really struggling, and she said to me, you know, it's the same emotions almost as grief, but it's harder in some respects because the person's still there. So you've lost someone that you know you can't get back, but they're still there. They're still at the end of a phone, or you know where they live, or, you know, so you can't really grieve properly, which was weird because at the time, for instance, me and Shane were going through it. I'd also just lost my dad, and I had the terrible guilt that when I went to bed at night, I was thinking more about Shane and not my dad, of losing my dad, and I had this terrible guilt. And she said, because your dad's gone and he hasn't. But yeah, I mean, it is really stressful. The only thing I will say is that each time and over the years, the good thing that I've learned from it is it has changed me as a person into, I feel so much stronger as a person. You know, when you get through something like that, you go, oh my God, I can do it, and I can do it on my own. I've managed, thank the Lord, to stay really good friends with both, and I mean really good friends. I love the bones of both of them, which is great for the kids. But for me, myself, I just think I've done it and I can do it and I can be stronger. And now as I get older and get into relationships, now it's a case of, if it's not working, can we just call it a day? Because I ain't got time.
No.
I'm running out of time.
Yeah.
But I know for some people it's incredibly toxic, or it's not that easy, but I was lucky in that respect.
No, I can really relate to what you're saying. I feel like I grew up. I feel like I became an actual grown-up after my divorce, because after that, it was in my hands to look after my children. My finances were decimated. It's like you said, I think it's the betrayal of you're arguing on so many different levels, because I was looking at things from an emotional capacity, but they've moved on. So they're just counting up what they can take. It's like the spoils of war. I mean, Christian, you know my situation back in the day, and it was just when you're dealing with finance and you're dealing with the grief of it and the stress of it and putting a smile on your face and mopping up the children's grief as well. There's so much. And also families are involved, friends are chucking in their 10 pence. It's a lot on one person to deal with and to go to bed with those thoughts, and you can never get any respite from it. So I think when people talk about divorce and they can just say it so in such an off-the-cuff way, I don't think there's anything quite as life-changing as divorce, especially when it isn't your choice and you have to keep rolling with whatever the new day presents. Court, again, children, families. It's a lot on people.
Yeah. It's like you say, it's having to suddenly navigate your way through a world that you never thought you'd be in.
No, in a world you've never been in before.
Absolutely. You don't want to be there necessarily either. So I think that's particularly
And you don't
draining.
just lose the person. You don't just lose your husband. You lose the family that you've made for you, his families, you know, people that you've loved all the way through. It's kind of you all split up.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Well, we've been married for 34 years and things have not been going that well, really. I think we just sort of drifted apart. We didn't really have anything in common. I'm very sociable. I like socialising, I like going out. I like holidays. He wasn't really interested in any of that. And so we've just decided to call it a day, really. But I think the hardest day ever was when we had to go to court. And we're both sitting in the court with solicitors and barristers and everything. And it's all money at the end of the day. That's all they're interested in, really. And then we sat there and then the judge was talking to us and everything. And then when we left, we ended up going home separately. And I thought, how sad is that? We've been married for 34 years and we can't even get in a car and share a car on the way home. So it was really, really hard. But the most important thing is our kids, and he's been an amazing dad as well. So, yeah.
I think you're also a very strong person if you can still pull those good parts in amongst all of the madness that you're living through. A lot of you getting in touch about this. Marge has said, yes, definitely, you find an inner strength you never knew you had. Wendy said, it absolutely changed me. Divorce is now my superpower. I don't rush into relationships to fill the gap anymore. A lot of people talking about the sense of failure and that the family's not there anymore, but you're all an example of how you can get there. It just takes time, sadly. You're certainly not alone. I think this will resonate with an awful lot of people today. Thank you very much for everybody that got in touch as well.